Hello, everybody. It's Brian David Johnson. I am the author of the science fiction prototyping column in the IEEE Computer Magazine, and this is the Science Fiction Prototyping Podcast, where we delve a little bit deeper into the different subjects that we've gotten into in the column, and also we get to meet the people and hear the people who are either in the column or have written the column for us as a guest author. And this month we have Tawny Shaleski. Tawny works with me actually at the Intel Corporation. She and I have worked together for many, many years and collaborated on many different projects. And I invited her to come and be an author this month because she's doing some really, really fascinating work at the intersection of technology and storytelling. And so she sat down with us and I asked her a few questions, and so let's hear what she had to say. Tawny, welcome to the Science Fiction Prototyping Podcast.
Thanks, Brian. It's nice to be here.
So, Tawny, you and I have worked together for almost a decade now. You and I have collaborated on lots of books and lots of papers and things like that. For the science fiction prototyping audience, can you just tell us a little bit about sort of who you do, and what your job is here at Intel?
Sure. For most of that decade, I've been partnering with Hollywood and other sort of high-end creatives in the entertainment industry, trying to figure out what are the missing pieces of technology that are preventing them from bringing everything in their imagination to life.
And so this recent article that you've done for us and so thank you so much, I think looks at where the future of entertainment's going. It has a little bit of storytelling in it, a little bit about virtual reality. What was your thinking behind it? Why did you write this article?
So for me, one of the things that's always interesting about sort of virtual and augmented reality is that we've been imagining what that would be like for about 30 years longer than we've been able to even begin to build it.
Right.
And this sort of that long history of sort of creative imagination and fiction that evolved around it has shaped our ideas of both what it should be and also what we're terrified it might become in these really compelling ways that are hard to sort of parse away from what we're actually seeing as the technology is making new things possible today.
Mm-hmm. So the stories have been flawed, basically.
I think, well, the stories have served a story purpose, right? They became vehicles to express things we were afraid of or things that we aspired to, and when they were disconnected from any kind of reality of what we could actually make, they serve that function really well. I think they are a bit flawed when we sort of think about what are the tools we're building today actually going to make possible.
And so you think those tools, and I think I agree with you, those tools are changing. I think that's one of the reasons why the work that you're doing, especially now, fits so well into science fiction prototyping. You know, the idea that we're using fictions to actually build a future, that you can use a prototype as almost a requirements document. And I think one of the things that you're saying in this is that it kind of, the previous ones were flawed requirements documents because we really couldn't do it. But now this virtual reality and this type of storytelling has become a kind of tool. And I think there's a great example that you have from a recent movie.
Right. So I think one of that story that just sort of inspires me is Chris Nolan was directing Interstellar, and he needed a black hole. And he went to Kip Thorne, an astrophysicist who'd been thinking about and writing and describing and mathematically understanding black holes for decades, I believe. Mm-hmm. What they did is they took Kip in with the special effects firm Double Negative, and those two creative forces together actually took all of Kip's math and the sort of visualization and rendering technology that the special effects firm had, and they made the black hole. And what was super cool about that is that when they made it, it behaved in ways Kip didn't expect it to behave. Mm. And they spent some time trying to figure out if the math was wrong, and they realized, no, the math is right. It's just that nobody had really understood that that's what the math would make, right? Because you had this math, which is hard for most of us to see. Most of us can't just see the matrix, you know. Even Kip was really surprised by what happened when all of his work became represented by this new tool. And I thought that was it's just this phenomenal opportunity for creativity and embodying ideas in ways we just have never even thought about before.
Right, and what makes that so different of where we are today than where we were, say, even just a decade ago, is we now have the computational power and the sensors and the AI and the ability to actually do that. So this fiction building, which is beyond just, say, comic book or sort of writing or even just sort of a movie special effects, that now we can actually, like what you said in the Chris Nolan movie, we can actually take the real math of black holes and model what it would actually look like. And in that model, if you will, in that fiction, we learn new things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Tawny, thank you so much for your article, and hopefully we can get you to come back.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. I love Tawny's example of Interstellar. I think myself, as everybody knows, as listeners to the Science Fiction Prototyping podcast, I am a huge geek. I love everything science and everything science fiction, but I am particularly a physics geek and a huge fan of Kip Thorne. And when Chris Nolan had talked about bringing in Kip Thorne to model the black hole, I was super excited. But it was really, for me, once I was talking to Tawny and she told me about the math and she told me about the computational power behind it, that's really the thing that pulled me in and made me see that this could be thought of as a science fiction prototype, but in a science fiction prototype in a really different way, where often we use science fiction as a way to prototype the human impact, the cultural impact, the legal impact of the technologies and the science that we're working on. Here, the science fiction prototype literally took on a life of its own. The math, Kip Thorne's math for black holes, took on a life of its own and played itself out in this fictional arena because of what the technology can bring us. And I think that is a huge leap forward and a really interesting application of the intersection between science fact and science fiction. So I want to thank you all for joining me on the Science Fiction Prototyping Podcast. As always, if you have any ideas for future columns or you have science fiction prototypes that you'd like to share with the audience, you can always email me at brian.david.johnson@intel.com, and you can always follow me on Twitter. I am @IntelFuturist. So thanks again for joining me, and we'll talk to you on the next podcast. Thanks.